Now, if you saw our video detailing the highest rated superstar in every major WWE video game release, you'll know that the female superstars have never been the highest rated superstar in the game. At one point in time, particularly in early WWE video game releases, it was common for female superstars to be amongst the lowest rated superstars in the game. However, thanks to the women's revolution and the women in WWE getting much better treatment over the past few years, this has begun to change. And now let's look at the highest rated ones, starting from SmackDown Here Comes the Pain and going all the way to 2019's release of WWE 2K20. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when we release a video. SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. In SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, the two highest rated women were Jazz and Trish Stratus respectively. Both former women's champions would be rated at 50 overall. Now, seeing as the highest male was rated 91 overall, to rate the top two women in the company at the time a lackluster 50 was incredibly disappointing. Day of Reckoning. For the Day of Reckoning release in 2004, the highest rated female in the game would be Victoria with an overall rating of 57. Victoria at the time of the game's development was Women's Champion, and she would even compete at WrestleMania 20 in a hair versus title match, so her being the highest ranked female in the game certainly matched her position in the company. WrestleMania 21. Both Lita and Trish Stratus would find themselves as the highest rated female superstars in WrestleMania 21. The two future WWE Hall of Famers would be rated at 52 overall, which made perfect sense as the duo without a question the most popular and most featured women on the WWE's roster at the time of the game's release. Day of Reckoning 2. 2005's Day of Reckoning 2 release was notable for rating Trish Stratus as the highest rated female in the game with an overall score of 60. The overall score of 60 would be the highest female rating to date and would begin a huge change for the WWE video game releases, as the highest rated woman in the game would never dip below an overall score of 60 ever again. SmackDown vs. Raw. The first ever installment of the acclaimed SmackDown vs. Raw series, Trish Stratus and Victoria would be the highest rated females in the game. The popular divas would be rated at 60 overall, and interestingly, Lita was left out of the game entirely, but if she was included in the game, it's rather likely that the former women's champion would have joined Trish and Victoria with a similar rating. SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. The next installment of the game continued the trend of Trish Stratus being the highest rated female superstar in the game. For the 2006 installment, Trish would be rated at 66 overall, which was her highest rating to date. SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. A SmackDown 07 would be the last time in WWE video game history that Trish Stratus would be the highest rated female in the game. By the time the 2008 installment was released the following year, Trish would have retired from full-time competition. Nevertheless, she would be rated at 69 overall for the 2007 installment, which was Trish's highest rating thus far and the highest rating for any female superstar up until the 2007 installment. SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. This would be Melina's second video game appearance, and she would actually be the highest rated female in the game. The multi-time women's champion would be rated at 71 overall, the highest rating for any female star at this point. SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. In this game, Beth Phoenix would be ranked at 79 overall, and this made her the highest rated woman in the game. Additionally, this marked the first time that Beth had attained the accolade. Beth was women's champion during the game's production and was the top female on Raw, so her position and rating in the game made perfect sense. SmackDown vs. Raw 2010. 2010's edition featured two women as the highest ranked female stars in the game. Those two women were once again Beth Phoenix and, for the first time ever, Gail Kim. Both women would be rated at 78 overall, and Gail had returned to WWE programming in March of 2009, and she was featured heavily around the game's development, which was likely why she was rated so high in the game. SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. This game marked the first time that a woman had ever been rated at more than 80 in a WWE video game. Beth Phoenix would be rated at 84 overall in the game, once again making her the highest rated woman in the game. Now, this would mark the last time that Beth would be rated on this level, as she would leave the WWE in 2012. WWE 12. For WWE 12, Karma would be the highest rated woman in the game with an overall rating of 76. Now this was interesting for a number of reasons. The main reason was that Karma hadn't actually wrestled a single match in the WWE when the game was released. She would only actually wrestle one match, that being the 2012 Royal Rumble match. WWE 13. Karma would once again be the highest rated female in the game. Shockingly, her rating went up and she would jump to 79 overall. As we mentioned, Karma would only wrestle one match in her WWE career, so it's crazy how THQ and WWE rated someone who actually never won a match in the company so highly. WWE 2K14. Now a number of women would receive the highest rating in 2K14. These women were Layla, Caitlyn and Oksana. All three women would be rated at 70 overall, and this kind of made logical sense for Layla and Caitlyn to be rated so high in the game, but Oksana was mainly used as enhancement talent, so her high rating remains kinda puzzling. WWE 2K15. AJ Lee would be the highest rated female in 2K15 for the first time ever. The multi-time Divas champion would be rated at 83 overall in the game. And during the game's development, AJ was in the midst of an historic reign as Divas champion and would successfully defend the Divas title at WrestleMania 30, marking the first time in history that the title had been defended on the grandest stage of WrestleMania. WWE 2K16. Now there was a lot of controversy surrounding the highest rated woman in 2K16. There were a total of 2 women rated at 83 overall in the game, and one of these was Paige, which was perfectly fine as Paige was one of the top women in the division, but the other one was Stephanie McMahon. As you all know, Stephanie was not a wrestler and she didn't have a single match during the time period of the game's development. To make things worse, Stephanie only had 2 official matches in the decade leading up to the game's release, meaning that there was no logical justification as to why Stephanie would be rated so highly in the game. WWE 2K17. The 3 members of the 4 Horsewomen stable would be the highest rated women in 2K17. Charlotte Flair, Becky and Sasha Banks would be rated 86 overall, and this just so happened to be the WWE video game debut of all 3 women. WWE 2K18. Asuka would be the highest rated superstar in 2K18, marking the first time in her career that she would achieve this accolade. She would be rated at 87 overall, which was accurate in contrast to her on-screen presentation at the time. Asuka was coming off a record-breaking NXT title reign and she was still unbeaten in the WWE when the game was released. 2K19. Ronda Rousey would make her WWE video game in 2K19, and she just so happened to be the highest rated woman in the game with an overall rating of 87. Ronda had a tremendous debut year and she would be the Raw Women's Champion when the game hit shelves, making her rating completely justified. And WWE 2K20. 2 women would take the top spot for the highest rated female stars in 2K20, the first of these being Becky Lynch, who would be rated at 90 overall. Becky was featured on the cover of the game alongside Roman Reigns and had become the face of the women's division in the year prior. The second woman would be Ronda Rousey. Ronda would also be rated at 90 overall. Although she only wrestled a few matches leading up to the game's release, she did main event WrestleMania 35 alongside Becky, so again, her rating is justifiable. Well, what do you guys think of these ratings? Are they too high or too low? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling video game content.